Action. So give us some background information about yourself.
Okay, well, hello, I'm Deborah Wells. I spent 21 years in the United States Air Force as a cyber officer. So I spent almost all my time doing cyber work for the Air Force. However, I did a lot of leadership and management as well as some other odd jobs throughout my time. I've worked on networks, telephone switches, radios, all things in the spectrum, all things computers, all things technology, all things communications. So it kind of runs the gamut in the Air Force. So it was never really a master of any one area because you're supposed to know as an officer all the different areas. But I had a love for it. It was very interesting for me. And so after I retired in June of 2016, I was hired on in ITAM as a lecturer, a full-time lecturer in the cybersecurity department. And what I was able to teach was digital forensics, attack and defend, risk assessment, the introduction cyber course, and RMT courses and management courses, also a project management course. So I have taught you're in 374?
Yes.
Yes, that's a class I have taught before as well. So that's a little bit about me and my background.
Okay, so another question. So I'm a broke college student that goes to Central, right? Why should I worry about someone hacking into my account? It's not like they're going to get any money or anything out of me.
Okay, so you're a broke college student. I'm sorry to hear that. You will, however, someday have money, right? You
Hopefully,
hope to?
hopefully.
That's why you're in college.
Yes.
Okay, well, you have a social security number. You have a credit report. You might not have, or you have credit. You might not have the best credit because you probably don't have hardly any credit cards, no mortgages, car loans, and things like that. And even if you do, you have credit. So an attacker is going to want to get your social security number, and maybe they'll sell it on the dark net. Maybe they'll just hold on to it. And someday when you go in there and you're like, what's going on with my credit? And it's already been compromised or stolen. Your identity has been stolen. So you always want to keep those things private. Your social security number, any other personal information. Don't let, people shoulder surf you so they can get your passwords and get into your account and things of that nature. So that's why even as a broke college student, you need to have good cyber hygiene and good digital wisdom when it comes to protecting your identity.
So in your opinion, what is the biggest threat in terms of cybersecurity that students face in today's world?
Students, probably cyber stalking. We talk about that in the IT 338, the cyber crimes class. A lot of stalking goes on in colleges. There's also, stealing of information. If you can hack into somebody's account, you can steal their information. Another thing is, when you say information, it might be the intellectual property. So you might write the paper and say your friend gets a copy of it who's in your class, or maybe it's not a friend if he takes your information or takes your paper and takes it as his own for plagiarism. Plagiarism is a big deal in college. Stalking and victimization is a big deal. As far as just, once again, good cyber hygiene, change your passwords, and keep yourself as safe as you can on your social media.
Okay, so speaking of social media, say I don't use social media, why should I be worried about someone stealing my identity?
On social media?
So because if I don't use it,
Because people who,
if I don't have one anyways.
okay, they will steal it. They will steal your identity from, say, something else. If you Googled your name, Luann, what would come up? Anything? Have you ever Googled your name?
Probably my Facebook because I do have one.
Oh, you do have Facebook. But
Yeah.
if you didn't, and there could be something else in there, they could see, they do what's called social engineering, so they'll get some information about you, and then they'll build a fake Facebook account, a fake, well, not so much LinkedIn, a fake Twitter, Snapchat, those things, and then they'll use it under your name. And so that's not good. That's one way to steal your identity too, is to take somebody who doesn't have a Facebook account or social media, or who doesn't use it for a while. A lot of times attackers will steal it and use it for their own.
So what is one easy preventative measure that students or people in general neglect to do?
Change their passwords and don't have strong enough passwords.
Okay.
Passwords is your best defense. As a student, that's one of your best defenses on any sort of cyber attack at this point in time. Change your passwords often. Obviously,
How often?
That just depends. So say maybe every 6 months, maybe not even that long, maybe 90 days. The IS department here at CW will force you to change your CW account, but like your Hotmail or Yahoo's or Gmail, anything else like that, just change those passwords. And also, if you do any online banking, change those passwords as well. And don't use the same password each and every application you have, or all the different bank accounts and your CW. Don't use the same password. It's really easy to do because passwords are like, gosh, do I really have to have, 10 characters and letters and numbers and make it a hybrid password? But you really need to have different passwords for all your different things.
So how can I make my password a strong password? What kind of recommendation would you give?
A hybrid password. A hybrid password is when you have letters, numbers, and special characters on it.
Okay.
So that's one way to do it. And an easy way to make a good strong password is to think of your favorite songs, or a song that comes into your head and you just use the first letter of the title, the song title, or a book or something like that. Don't use like names, common names, or your dog's name or something like that. It's too easy to break because there are password crackers out there.
Okay, so I know you brought this up in class, but have you ever experienced an attack on yourself?
Oh yes, I just had one 2 weeks ago. I had somebody from Russia stole my credit card number and took out an ATM withdrawal. Fortunately, my credit card company, my bank, as soon as I called them and said there's been an attack or an identity theft here in my stolen credit card, they canceled that credit card. They refunded the money that was stolen out of there, and then they issued me a new credit card. So one thing you can do to avoid that is to constantly, if you have credit cards or you're banking, is to check them often. Don't go much past a day or two, and always be checking. And especially if you travel out of country. Another thing, if you travel out of country, let your banks know that you're going to be having transactions from those, so they can authorize.
Okay. So what is the first thing to do if my computer is compromised?
It depends on your compromise. In my case, it was a credit card number credit card that was stolen, right? So I immediately called the bank and told them to, don't process any more credit card transactions in my name. And then they did their fraud report. Now, if you're getting an active attack or somebody, a ransomware, that's going to be a little bit different story. If it's a ransomware, either you can pay a ransom or you can say, take the data. But easy way, if you say take the data, is to make sure you have a backup somewhere. You need those backups, and that's one way to avoid ransomware. And keep your antivirus software up to date all the time, and just watch the sites you go to. Make sure that they're HTTPS, so they have an encryption on them to go to them, so that you're not just going to just random sites.
So instead of just keeping my antivirus up to date, why should I always make sure my computer's operating system is up to date? Why should I always
updates. Yes, I teach that in class all the
Yes.
time. Thanks for reminding me. Because antiquated equipment or operating systems, they don't get the patches, the security patches. Like, say, for instance, if you use Windows 7, Microsoft is stopping the patches as of 2020, so you won't get a new patch. And so it'll be an open vulnerability that won't have a patch. And that's what attackers look for, is anything that's, they're using Windows 7 or Windows XP. I know of exploits or vulnerabilities that are out there because they're published on the network. I can just try this and see. And then even if you just had one computer that was, say, XP or 7, Windows 7, that can be a way to get into your network.
Okay.
And then once they get into your network, then they just kind of branch out and they go and try to get to the domain controller to have complete control of your network, depending on what their attack vector is all about. Whether financial gain, is it just to deface, or something like that.
You guys have any last minute questions for her that you want to bring up?
I would ask what advice you have in regards to, or opinions you have in regards to two-factor authentication.
Okay, two-factor authentication is, I think, a wonderful way to keep secure. You have a password, and then you also get code or something texted to you, or if it's a biometric, then you have to do something else just besides a password. So if your password was compromised and they tried to get into your account, and it's going to be a lot harder for them to break that two-factor authentication. So it is a very good thing to have.
So speaking of the same thing, what's your opinion on those password managers that keep all your passwords in one?
Like we talked about, like not with FIDO, because that's not
Not with FIDO.
It's like I know what you're calling a keychain.
Is that what it's called?
It's
Okay.
called a keychain, and they can be compromised. If somebody went to the Windows registry and they knew what they were doing, they could be compromised and get that keychain and be able to get your bank of passwords out of there. So, is it a good thing? It can be, but
Yeah, I've heard
no.
it wouldn't. But people like it just for the convenience of having everything in one. So yeah.
People love it when you have autofill on your password.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing that's not good. I have it on some things that are not anything to do with banking. I never do a banking autofill. Some of the other, like to get textbooks and things of that nature, I'll use autofill. But it's not the same password.
Of course. Yeah.
So
So, do you have any last minute tips you'd like to share with the rest of the students at Central?
Oh boy, that's an open-ended question.
A few
Just be
ones.
safe with your
Yeah.
cyber, be safe with your social media, watch what you put out there. Not necessarily a security, but for jobs and things like that, watch what you put out. If you're out partying all the time or you have some strong opinions about something, maybe not post them on Facebook, just because future employers will be looking at your social media to see really what kind of person you are.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your question.